The words hit me like ice water down my spine. I was standing in my kitchen, flour dusting my hands from the dumpling dough I'd been kneading for Sunday dinner, when my 7-year-old grandson, Emma, tugged at my apron with those serious, dark eyes that reminded me so much of my own mother. "What did you say, sweetheart?" I asked, bending down to her level, thinking I'd misheard. Children say the strangest things, after all. Last week, she'd insisted that clouds were made of cotton candy, and the week before that, she'd asked if fish got thirsty. But Emma's expression didn't have that playful spark. Her little face was scrunched up in confusion, her voice barely above a whisper. "Mommy. Sometimes she's nice, Mommy, and sometimes she's mean, Mommy. Today is Mean Mommy Day." I laughed it off, ruffling her silky black hair. "Oh, honey, everyone has bad days. Your mommy probably just had a long day at work." I returned to my dumplings, pressing the edges carefully, the way my own mother had taught me 60 years ago in our tiny apartment in Chinatown. Emma didn't move. She stood there, her small fingers still clutching my apron, her eyes fixed on me with an intensity that made my hands pause mid-fold. "No, Grandma. It's not that. Nice Mommy makes my lunch with the crusts cut off. Mean Mommy doesn't. Nice Mommy smells like jasmine. Mean Mommy smells like roses. Nice Mommy reads me 3 stories. Mean Mommy only reads 1. Children and their imaginations, I thought. But something in her voice made me uncomfortable. I wiped my hands on my apron and pulled out a chair. "Come sit with Grandma for a minute." As Emma climbed onto the chair, her legs swinging too short to reach the floor, I studied her face. She wasn't making up stories to get attention. She was genuinely confused, maybe even a little scared. "Sweetheart, have you told Mommy or Daddy about this?" She shook her head vigorously. "Daddy doesn't notice." And when I tried to tell Mommy, she got really quiet and gave me ice cream. But it was Mean Mommy, so the ice cream didn't taste good. I felt a chill despite the warm kitchen. "What do you mean the ice cream didn't taste good?" "Because Mean Mommy's hugs aren't warm," Emma said matter-of-factly, as if this explained everything. "And her voice is different. Just a little bit. Like when you try to sing Daddy's songs, but it doesn't sound exactly right." My daughter-in-law, Rachel, had been part of our family for 5 years now. She'd married my son, Jason, in a beautiful ceremony at the San Francisco Botanical Gardens, and I'd been thrilled to welcome her. Rachel was everything I'd hoped for in a daughter-in-law, educated, kind, and she'd given me the most precious gift of all, my granddaughter, Emma. But now, sitting in my kitchen with flour still dusting my hands, I felt the first tremor of something being very, very wrong. "Emma, can you tell Grandma more about Nice Mommy and Mean Mommy?" The little girl's eyes lit up, as if she'd been waiting forever for someone to finally take her seriously. "Nice Mommy lets me help cook dinner. Mean Mommy says I'm too messy. Nice Mommy walks me to school holding my left hand because she knows I like to look at the flowers on that side. Mean Mommy holds my right hand and walks fast. Nice Mommy knows all my stuffed animals' names. Mean Mommy calls them all Bear, even though Mr. Whiskers is obviously a rabbit." Each detail was like a small stone dropping into a pond, creating ripples of unease. I tried to rationalize it. Rachel was busy. She was a graphic designer with demanding clients. Some days she was patient, other days she was stressed. That was normal, wasn't it? "Does Daddy notice when Mean Mommy is here?" I asked carefully. Emma shook her head. "Daddy's always working." "But Grandma, you know what's really weird? Nice Mommy has a tiny scar on her hand from when she cut it opening a can, but sometimes the scar isn't there." My breath caught. "What do you mean, sometimes it's not there?" "On Mean Mommy days, her hand is perfect. No scar." I sat back in my chair, my mind racing. A scar doesn't just appear and disappear. This was impossible, unless number. The thought was too absurd. People don't just switch places with someone who looks exactly like them. This was real life, not a movie. "Emma, when did you first notice Nice Mommy and Mean Mommy?" She scrunched up her face, thinking hard. "Maybe after my birthday? When I turned 7? Before that, there was only one mommy, but after my birthday party, sometimes mommy was different. 3 months ago. I tried to remember if anything unusual had happened around Emma's birthday. The party had been at our house, a small gathering with a few school friends, pizza, and a unicorn cake that Rachel had spent hours decorating. Rachel had been tired that day, I remembered. She'd gone home early saying she had a headache. Had she? Or had someone else gone home? I was being ridiculous. The stress of turning 62 must be getting to me. My friend Lily kept saying I needed to relax more, stop worrying about everyone. But then I remembered something that had struck me as odd at the time. 2 weeks after Emma's birthday, I'd stopped by Jason and Rachel's house unannounced to drop off some homemade almond cookies. Rachel had answered the door, but something had been off. She'd seemed surprised to see me, almost nervous. And when I'd hugged her, she'd stiffened just for a moment, as if she weren't used to my embrace. At the time, I'd attributed it to her having a bad day. But now, Emma, is today a nice mommy day or a mean mommy day? Nice mommy, Emma said with a small smile. She made my lunch this morning with heart-shaped sandwiches. And when is the next time you think mean mommy will be here? Emma thought for a moment. Usually it's every 3 or 4 days. Sometimes more. I've been keeping track. She pulled a small folded piece of paper from her pocket. It was covered in stickers. Hearts for nice mommy days. Stars for mean mommy days. My hands trembled as I took the paper. 3 months of tracking. 3 months of a 7-year-old trying to make sense of something that didn't make sense. The pattern was irregular, but there was a pattern. Nice mommy never appeared 2 days in a row. Neither did mean mommy. They alternated, sometimes with gaps of several days. Someone was playing a very dangerous game with my family. Emma, honey, I need you to do something for me. Can you be very brave? She nodded solemnly. Don't tell anyone we had this talk, okay? Not mommy, not daddy, not even your friends at school. Can you do that? Are you going to fix it, Grandma? I pulled her into my arms, breathing in the scent of her strawberry shampoo. Grandma is going to figure out what's going on. I promise. After Emma left with Rachel, nice Rachel, according to Emma's assessment, I sat alone in my kitchen as the evening sun painted shadows across the walls. My first instinct was to call my son immediately, to demand answers. But something held me back. If Emma was right, if there really were 2 women pretending to be Rachel, then someone in my family was lying. And if Jason didn't know, telling him might put Emma in danger. But if Jason did know, the thought made me sick. My son wouldn't be part of something like this, would he? I needed proof before I said anything to anyone. Real, concrete proof that I wasn't just a worried grandmother buying into a child's fantasy. I walked to my living room and pulled out the photo albums I kept meticulously organized on the bookshelf. 5 years of family photos. I started with the wedding album, studying every picture of Rachel with new eyes. There she was in her wedding dress, radiant and beautiful, her smile reaching her eyes. Jason gazed at her with such love it made my heart ache. I ran my finger over the image, looking for... What was I even looking for? Then I saw it. In the wedding photos, Rachel wore a distinctive ring on her right hand, a delicate silver band with a small turquoise stone. It had belonged to her grandmother, she'd told me. She never took it off. I flipped through the album faster now, my pulse quickening. Every wedding photo showed the ring. I grabbed the album from Emma's 7th birthday party 3 months ago. My hands shook as I found the pictures of Rachel cutting the cake, laughing, hugging Emma. No ring. I checked again, zooming in on every photo where her hands were visible. The ring was gone. My phone buzzed. A text from my husband David. Working late again. Don't wait up. David had been working late a lot recently, 3-4 times a week. He was a semi-retired engineer supposedly consulting on a big project downtown. But now, with Emma's words echoing in my head and the missing ring glaring at me from the photos, I felt the first cold finger of suspicion. Where was David really going? And why did I suddenly feel like I didn't know my own husband anymore? I texted back, "Okay, be safe." Then I did something I'd never done in 40 years of marriage. I opened the Find My Phone app and checked David's location. He wasn't downtown, he was in the Marina district at an address I didn't recognize. I sat there in the growing darkness, the photo album open on my lap, and realized that my perfect family was built on lies, and I was going to uncover every single one of them. The next morning, I woke up at 5 a.m. with a plan forming in my mind like storm clouds gathering before rain. David was still asleep beside me, his breathing deep and steady. I studied his face in the dim light filtering through the curtains, the face I'd loved for 40 years, the face I'd trusted completely. Did I even know this man anymore? I slipped out of bed silently, my feet finding the cold hardwood floor. In the kitchen, I made coffee with shaking hands, the familiar ritual somehow comforting. While the machine gurgled and hissed, I pulled out my phone and called the one person I knew I could trust completely. "Lily, I need your help with something. Can you come over this morning?" My best friend and neighbor Lily Park had known me since we'd both been young mothers pushing strollers through Golden Gate Park. She'd seen me through my mother's death, through Jason's rebellious teenage years, through every crisis of the past 30 years. "Maggie, it's 5:30 in the morning. Are you okay?" "No, I don't think I am. Can you come at 8? David will be gone by then." There was a pause. Lily knew me well enough to hear the tremor in my voice. "I'll bring croissants." David left for work at 7:30, kissing my cheek absent-mindedly. "Late meeting again tonight. This project is killing me." "What project is it again?" I asked casually, pouring him coffee. He hesitated, just for a fraction of a second. "The Anderson building renovation. I told you about it." He hadn't, not once. But I smiled and nodded, watching him walk out the door with his briefcase, wondering if there were any real work documents in it at all. The moment his car disappeared around the corner, I was on my laptop searching for the Anderson building project. It existed, a legitimate renovation project downtown. But when I called the number listed, the receptionist had never heard of David Chen as a consultant. My coffee turned cold as I sat there, the truth settling over me like a heavy blanket. My husband was lying to me about where he went, about what he did, about everything. Lily arrived at 8 sharp, carrying a bag of croissants and wearing the serious expression that meant she was ready for whatever crisis I was facing. I'd barely opened the door before the words tumbled out. "I think my daughter-in-law is 2 different people, and my husband is part of the conspiracy." To her credit, Lily didn't laugh. She set down the croissants, took my hand, and said, "Start from the beginning." I told her everything. Emma's observations about nice mommy and mean mommy, the disappearing scar, the missing ring in the photos, David's mysterious absences and fake work project. By the time I finished, Lily was pale. "Show me the photos," she said. We spread the albums across my dining table, a timeline of deception laid out in glossy paper and frozen smiles. Lily's trained eye as a former art gallery curator caught details I'd missed. "Look at this," she said, pointing to a photo from Emma's birthday party. "See how Rachel is holding the knife to cut the cake?" With her left hand. But in the wedding photos, she's clearly right-handed. Look at how she's holding the bouquet, signing the registry, everything. My stomach dropped. Emma said nice mommy and mean mommy hold her hand differently when walking to school. "Because they're different people with different dominant hands," Lily said grimly. She pulled out her phone. "I have a friend who's a private investigator. We need professional help, Maggie." "No," I said quickly. "Not yet. If David is involved, if Jason is involved, going to an investigator could tip them off. I need to understand what's happening first. I need to know why." Lily studied me with concerned eyes. "What are you going to do?" "I'm going to follow David tonight, find out where he's really going. Then I'm coming with you." I started to protest, but she held up a hand. "You're not doing this alone." "We've been friends for 30 years, Maggie. You were there when my husband walked out. I'm here for this." That night, I told David I was having dinner with Lily. Not entirely a lie. We did grab sandwiches before parking my car half a block from our house, waiting for David to leave. At 7:15, his Honda pulled out of the driveway. "There he goes," Lily said, already starting her car. "Stay back, but don't lose him." Following someone in San Francisco traffic was harder than it looked in movies. We nearly lost him twice, but Lily was a better driver than I'd given her credit for. David drove across the city, through neighborhoods I barely recognized, until he pulled up in front of a modern apartment building in the Marina District. My hands were ice cold as I watched my husband of 40 years walk into that building with the confident stride of someone who'd been there many times before. "What's the apartment number?" Lily asked. I checked my phone's location history from the night before. According to this, he was on the 4th floor last time. We waited 15 minutes. Then Lily said, "I'm going to check the mailboxes. See which apartments are on the 4th floor." She was back in 5 minutes with a photo on her phone. 4th floor has apartments 401 through 406. 3 of them have Asian surnames. One is Wang, one is Liu, and one is Chen. Chen, my maiden name. My heart was hammering so hard I thought it might break through my ribs. "There's something else," Lily said quietly. I saw the resident directory. Apartment 404, the one registered to Wang, has 2 names listed: Grace Wang and Rachel Wang. Rachel. The world tilted. I grabbed the dashboard to steady myself. "Are you telling me there are 2 Rachels? And one of them is living here and my husband has been visiting her?" "I don't know what I'm telling you," Lily said, "but we're going to find out." She drove me home, both of us silent, processing what we'd discovered. When she dropped me off, she squeezed my hand. "Don't do anything tonight. Sleep on it. We'll figure this out tomorrow." But I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed next to David when he came home at 11, smelling of jasmine perfume, the same scent Emma had mentioned. He thought I was asleep, but through slitted eyes, I watched him pull out his phone and send a text. "Everything is fine." M didn't suspect anything. M, Maggie. Me. My husband was reporting on me to someone. The next morning, I made breakfast like nothing was wrong. Scrambled eggs, toast, orange juice. David ate quickly, checking his phone constantly. "I need to run some errands today," I said casually. "Emma's school is having a bake sale. I thought I'd make those almond cookies she loves." "That's nice," David said, not really listening. "I'll be home late again." "Of course you will," I said sweetly. The moment he left, I was on the phone with Lily. "I need you to watch the Marina District apartment today. I want to know everyone who goes in or comes out." "What are you going to do?" "I'm going to talk to my daughter-in-law, the one who's married to my son." I showed up at Jason and Rachel's house at 10 a.m. with a container of fresh almond cookies. Rachel answered the door. "But which Rachel?" "Margaret." What a lovely surprise. She hugged me and I paid attention to everything. The warmth of the hug, the scent, jasmine. "I was baking and thought Emma might like some cookies for her lunchbox," I said. Come in. I just made tea." We sat in her sunny kitchen and I studied her carefully. Right-handed, I noted, as she poured tea. A small scar on her left hand from a can opener incident last year. Nice Rachel, the real Rachel. "How have you been, dear?" "You seem tired lately." She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Oh, you know. Work has been crazy. Lots of deadlines." I took a sip of tea and decided to test the waters. "Emma mentioned something interesting the other day. She said you smell different sometimes, like roses instead of jasmine." Rachel's hand froze, the teacup halfway to her lips. For just a second, I saw pure panic flash across her face before she forced a laugh. Kids and their imaginations. I probably wore different lotion that day. "Funny thing about that," I continued, my voice still light and conversational, "Emma's been keeping track. She has a whole chart. Days when you smell like jasmine versus days when you smell like roses. Days when you're left-handed versus right-handed. Days when you remember all her stuffed animals' names versus days when you don't." The teacup rattled as Rachel set it down. Her face had gone completely white. "Margaret, And the really interesting thing," I cut her off, is that my husband has been spending his evenings at an apartment in the Marina District, apartment 404, registered to Grace Wang and Rachel Wang. She started crying then, silent tears streaming down her face. Please, please don't tell Jason. Please, it's not what you think. Then tell me what it is. Rachel, the real Rachel, I was sure now, wiped her eyes and took a shaking breath. Grace is my twin sister. We were separated as babies when our parents divorced. She went with our father to Hong Kong. I stayed with our mother here. We didn't even know about each other until 3 years ago when our mother was dying. She confessed everything. I listened, my teacup forgotten as the story poured out. Grace and I became close, or so I thought. She'd had a hard life. Our father was abusive. She'd struggled with addiction, bad relationships. I wanted to help her. I gave her money, let her stay with us for a while. But then what? She became obsessed with my life. My marriage, my daughter, my home. She wanted everything I had. She started doing things. Small things at first. Wearing my clothes, styling her hair like mine. She said she just wanted to feel normal, to know what it was like to have a real family. I felt ice forming in my veins. And then she suggested switching places. Rachel nodded miserably. Just for a day here and there, she said. She wanted to know what it felt like to be a mother, to have a husband who loved her. I felt sorry for her. I thought, what's the harm? A few hours here and there. But then she wanted more. Yes. And then David found out. The room spun. What? He saw us together one day. Grace and I in the same coffee shop. We look identical, Margaret. He figured it out immediately, but instead of telling Jason, She couldn't finish. He what, Rachel? Her voice was barely a whisper. He said he'd keep our secret. That he understood Grace needed help, but only if we did exactly what he said. The almond cookies in my stomach turned to lead. What does he want? Rachel looked up at me with red, swollen eyes. He wants control of your assets. There's a life insurance policy on you, Margaret. $2 million. David is the beneficiary, but there's a clause. If you die of natural causes within the next year, the payout doubles to $4 million because of some premium he's been paying. The kitchen walls seemed to close in on me. My own husband, the man I'd trusted for 40 years. And Grace? I managed to ask. David promised her half the money and promised she could take over my life permanently, that he'd find a way to make me disappear. I stood up, my legs somehow holding me even though I felt like I was made of paper. Where's Emma? At school. Margaret, I swear, I never wanted any of this. I just wanted to help my sister. I didn't know she was planning. I didn't know David was... Where is Grace right now? Probably at the apartment. She switches with me every few days. We have a system worked out through David. He coordinates everything. I pulled out my phone and called Lily. Tell me you're still watching that apartment. Haven't moved. Why? Because I'm about to do something crazy, and I need you to record everything. I drove to the Marina District like a woman possessed, my hands gripping the steering wheel so tight my knuckles turned white. Rachel sat in the passenger seat crying quietly, her phone clutched in her trembling hands. Call Grace, I commanded. Tell her you need to switch today. Emergency. Make up something about Jason coming home early. Rachel dialed with shaking fingers. I could hear the phone ringing through the car's speakers. Rachel. Grace's voice was identical to Rachel's. Same tone, same cadence. Hearing it made my skin crawl. I need to switch now, Rachel said, her voice surprisingly steady. Jason's coming home early. Client meeting got canceled. You need to be at the house in 20 minutes. There was a pause. What about David? Did you clear it with him? My blood ran cold. Everything went through David. My husband was the puppet master of this entire sick operation. David said it's fine. Rachel lied smoothly. He texted me 10 minutes ago. Another pause. Okay, I'm leaving now. The call ended. Rachel turned to me, her eyes wide. She's coming! Margaret, what are you going to do? I'm going to end this, I said grimly, and you're going to help me. We parked outside Rachel's house just as Grace's car pulled into the driveway. I watched from my vehicle as a woman who looked exactly like my daughter-in-law stepped out, carrying a bag. She was dressed differently than Rachel, wearing jeans and a leather jacket instead of Rachel's usual soft cardigans. Even from a distance, I could see the difference in how she moved, more aggressive, more confident. Rachel took a deep breath. I'm going in. Wait, I grabbed her arm. Where's Emma? At school until 3. We have time. Good. Because I need you to do exactly what I say. 20 minutes later, I walked up to the front door and rang the bell. Grace answered, and for a moment I just stared. It was like looking at Rachel through a distorted mirror. Same face, same body, but the eyes were different. Colder. Calculating. Margaret! She sounded surprised but recovered quickly, forcing Rachel's warm smile onto her face. I didn't know you were coming over. I brought some cookies for Emma, I said, holding up a container. Can I come in? She hesitated just for a second, then stepped aside. Of course. The house felt different with Grace in it. Wrong, somehow, like furniture that had been moved just slightly off its original position. She moved through Rachel's kitchen like she owned it, which I suppose was exactly what she wanted. Rachel seems tired lately, I said conversationally, watching Grace pour tea. She used her left hand. I worry about her. Oh, she's fine, Grace said dismissively, just working too hard. That's what I thought. But then Emma said something interesting. Grace's hand stilled over the teapot. Oh? She said sometimes her mommy is different. Sometimes nice, sometimes mean, sometimes right-handed, sometimes left-handed. Isn't that strange? The mask slipped. Grace's face hardened, her eyes turning sharp. Kids say weird things. They do, I agreed. But Emma's very observant. She even made a chart. And you know what? When I compared it to David's calendar of his late-night meetings, they matched perfectly. Grace set down the teapot with a sharp click. I don't know what you're talking about. I think you do. I think my husband has been helping you and Rachel switch places. I think you want my daughter-in-law's life. And I think David promised you could have it. The room filled with heavy silence. Then Grace laughed, a sound nothing like Rachel's gentle laugh. This was harsh, bitter. You're crazy. You know that? A paranoid old woman seeing conspiracies everywhere. Am I? I pulled out my phone and turned the screen toward her. It showed the recording Lily had made earlier of David entering the apartment building. That's my husband going to visit you at your apartment. The apartment registered to Grace Wang and Rachel Wang, your apartment. Grace's face went pale. Here's what's going to happen, I continued, my voice deadly calm. You're going to tell me everything, every detail of your plan with David, and then you're going to help me stop it. And if I don't, then I call the police right now. Identity fraud, conspiracy to commit fraud, and attempted murder, because I know about the life insurance policy and David's plan to make something happen to me. Grace's eyes widened. How Rachel told me everything. Your real twin sister is a lot more honest than you are. She's sick of this game, and she's ready to testify against you. For a long moment, Grace just stared at me. Then slowly, she sank into a chair. It was supposed to be simple. Just a few switches. Rachel felt sorry for me. Poor Grace, who had such a hard life. I played the victim perfectly. And David? He figured it out 6 months ago, saw us together at a coffee shop. At first, I thought we were done. But then he approached me with a proposition. Her voice turned bitter. He wanted you dead, but it had to look natural. Heart attack, stroke, something believable. He'd been researching medications that could trigger cardiac events in someone your age. My stomach churned, but I kept my voice steady. And in exchange? Half the insurance money, $4 million, and I'd get to keep Rachel's life permanently. David would help me get rid of Rachel, make her disappear somewhere. He said it would be easy. She'd just be another missing person, tragically lost. And Jason? Emma? Grace shrugged. Collateral damage. Jason would grieve, then move on. Emma would adjust. Kids are resilient. The casual cruelty in her voice made me want to scream. This woman was willing to destroy my entire family for money and a life that wasn't hers. There's just one problem with your plan, I said quietly. What's that? You're not as smart as you think you are. I pulled out my phone and played another recording, this entire conversation. Washington is a one-party consent state for recording conversations. Everything you just said is admissible in court. Grace lunged for my phone, but the front door burst open. Detective Marcus Stone walked in, followed by 2 uniformed officers. Behind them was Rachel, the real Rachel, and Lily, who'd been coordinating everything from her car. Grace Wang, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit fraud and conspiracy to commit murder, Detective Stone said, pulling out handcuffs. Grace's face twisted with rage. You bitch! You set me up! No, I said calmly. You set yourself up the moment you thought you could steal my daughter-in-law's life and help my husband murder me. As the officers led Grace away, still screaming threats, Rachel collapsed against the wall, sobbing with relief. I pulled her into my arms. This woman who'd been trapped in an impossible situation, trying to help her sister and ending up nearly destroyed. It's over, I whispered. You're safe now. But it wasn't quite over. There was still David. Detective Stone turned to me. Mrs. Chen, we have a warrant for your husband's arrest. Where is he? At work. Or at least, that's what he told me. I gave them the address of the Marina District Department, but I bet you'll find him there, planning his next move. 2 hours later, I sat in the police station, giving my statement, when they brought David in. He saw me through the glass window and our eyes met. For 40 years, I'd loved this man. I'd trusted him with my life, my heart, my future, and he'd been willing to kill me for money. He looked away first. Detective Stone sat across from me, his expression grave. We found extensive documentation in Mr. Chen's home office. Plans, medications purchased online, Google searches about untraceable poisons. He'd been planning this for over a year. A year, I repeated numbly. We celebrated our 40th anniversary a year ago. I made his favorite dinner. We danced in the kitchen. I'm sorry, Mrs. Chen. The divorce papers were filed 3 days later. David tried to fight it from jail, claiming I was overreacting, that he'd never actually hurt me. But the evidence was overwhelming. The medications, the internet searches, the wire transfers to Grace, the recorded conversations. The trial took 6 months. Grace was sentenced to 10 years for conspiracy to commit fraud and attempted murder. David got 20 years. 20 years for trying to murder the woman he'd promised to love until death did them part. Emma still asks about her grandfather sometimes. Where's Grandpa David, Grandma? I tell her he had to go away for a while, that he made some very bad choices. She's too young to understand the full truth, but one day, I'll tell her everything. I'll tell her that even the people we love most can betray us, but I'll also tell her that some people, like her real mother, find the courage to do the right thing, even when it's terrifying. Rachel and I are closer now than ever. She's in therapy, working through the trauma of what her sister put her through. Jason knows everything now, and while it was hard for him to accept, he's been incredibly supportive of his wife. As for me, I'm rebuilding my life at 62. I sold the house I shared with David. Too many memories of lies and betrayal. I bought a smaller place near Rachel and Jason, close enough to pick Emma up from school every day. Last week, Emma and I were baking cookies together when she said, "Grandma, I'm glad there's only one mommy now." Nice mommy. Me too, sweetheart, me too. I look at my granddaughter, this observant, brave little girl who saw what the adults missed, and I know that our family will survive this. We'll heal. We'll move forward. But I'll never forget the lesson I learned, that sometimes the greatest danger doesn't come from strangers. Sometimes it comes from the person sleeping beside you, whispering plans for your death while you dream of growing old together.